Okay. Did everyone have a chance to read the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Are there any recommendations, any changes, comments?
Looks good.
I have a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Who was that?
Terry Stokes.
Okay, Terry. Okay. Christina, we need to vote. Yes or no, you accept the minutes?
Me? Oh, yes.
Christina.
Yes.
Okay. Carol,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Rod?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay, that's everybody has voting rights. We're good. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank God we have a quorum. Okay. So liaison reports. Margaret, would you like to start?
Actually, can I just, like Margaret said,
Somebody's getting weird feedback. Is it me?
I think everybody who's not speaking should mute, and then you generally can avoid that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Yep. Okay. All right. Now I accidentally deleted my report. Okay. Didn't delete it, but just, okay. So at the February board meeting, we talked about the issues with lack of home care workers for various reasons. Because of the lack of workers, Minuteman has not been able to fully meet every client's service plan. And in addition, there's no adult day health, which Minuteman would also pay for. So the result has been a budget surplus. And I think I mentioned this last time that the way the budget goes out from the state, if you don't use your budget, you have to give it back to the state, which is, it makes sense, but that's what we're looking at. So even though there's a budget surplus, it doesn't mean they can do anything with that money. It's restricted. And I've talked in the past that there's been a movement to try to get these home care workers a pay increase because the state is just not really moving on it. There was a very small 10% increase for time spent doing homemaking and personal care. Only 10%, not very much. And in general, use of services decreases in the winter anyway, but all these factors have combined to make a budget surplus. The board is going to be conducting a review of the executive director, Kelly McGee Wright. The other news is that every 4 years, Minuteman has to update what's called the Area on Aging Plan, which you can read online. And this process involves sending out an assessment, sort of like a survey, and also, they used to have, like little group focus meetings, but I suppose they're not doing that. But the needs assessment in the past has been very interesting and helpful. Last time, and this time also, they're focusing on the unmet needs of minority communities. And for example, the last time they had to do a plan, they did a survey of their Indian clients, and as a result, the Meals on Wheels now has an Indian menu. I don't think it's every day that you can get Indian food, but for lunch. And another discovery from the last needs assessment will not surprise Ginger, I don't think, which was a fear of technology and a reluctance to use the internet to do anything like ordering groceries. And that was 4 years ago. So now it's just become so much more important to know how to use technology. But anyway, that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? No. Okay. Concord Housing Authority, Ron?
Sure, sure, Carol Ann. So there were two topics that I think, of many, there were two topics that I think are of particular interest to our board. The first was a rather extensive discussion about the StarMet site or use proposal. And the Housing Authority did not talk about giving a very definitive recommendation or preference, but I will say that there was considerable opposition to locating housing at the site. And there was a very interesting discussion that was a suggestion that was made during the discussion of swapping activities or uses of other town sites that would be low use and moving them to this StarMet site, and then moving, for example, housing to one of the existing Concord sites. So that was an interesting suggestion. I don't know if it's been followed up and I don't know if anyone has discussed the feasibility of that, but that's something which did come up during the Housing Authority's discussion, and we may hear about that in future meetings about the StarMet proposal.
Sorry, Roger, can I just ask?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't quite understand. So the suggestion is to swap the use of other town sites that are low use activities?
Yes, that was one of the suggestions that was actually made to your husband at the meeting. It came from some observer. I didn't record the fellow's name, but the idea was this is now town property, and look at the use of all town properties and move them around, so like swapping things around. So maybe there's a more appropriate housing site that where now there's some activity that could be moved to the StarMet site, that sort of thing.
Was there an example of a low use activity site?
No, there was no specifics given. It was just more of a conceptual idea.
Is that because they didn't want to put housing on a Superfund site or a former?
There was quite a bit of what I would say non-fact based opposition, but more and it's real, right? It's real. It's emotion and feelings based, but people were concerned.
Yeah.
So that was the first topic. The second topic, and this was at the Housing Authority meeting on February 4th. So I don't know if this actually occurred since so many things have changed with respect to COVID vaccinations. There was talk about establishing a clinic working with the West Concord Pharmacy to vaccinate residents at the Everett housing site, but I'm not sure that actually happened. Ginger may know a lot more about that.
I do know that the Housing Authority did partner with the West Concord Pharmacy to offer a clinic on site if and when the pharmacy gets any vaccine.
Got it. So there hasn't been any vaccination at that site yet. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. And that's my summary, Carol Ann, for the Concord Housing Authority.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? No, okay. Disability, Ginger, is there anything?
My understanding from Lauren is that they too had a presentation related to the StarMet site. I have not read the minutes to see anything more specific than that, but they did discuss it. And there also was the discussion about they have some amount of funding and they are deciding whether or not they will have some kind of a, grant application process for, ways to distribute that funding, and that was discussed as well.
Okay, thank you, Ginger. Concord after 60, Terry, there was no report?
No, because the next meeting is this coming Sunday, so there's been no further activity since the last time we met.
Okay, thank you. Concord Housing Development Corp., that is Michael, who has not joined us. Okay. StarMet, Kristen, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just to say, the committee is hoping to finalize the report on March 5th, but folks can still provide feedback on the website. So if there are people here that still have input or they know of others, they're welcome to do that. They have already addressed the preliminary Council on Aging feedback by removing references to a senior center at the site in favor of a community space that could allow a variety of uses, including specific COA activities or other events.
Okay, thank you. Board of Health, Patty. Oh, you're on mute.
The Board of Health canceled its February meeting. They mentioned there were many frustrations with getting the vaccine from MDPH and fluid eligibility, and they, I think they did not give a reason for canceling it, but I think it was because everything is so fluid and they weren't getting vaccines. They really didn't have any update from before, particularly on that. Anyway, the next meeting is planned for March 16 at 7 p.m. I did write today to the person I've been talking with there, and that's not Susan Rask, who's the director, but Karen, who communicates closely with her. And she did send me a letter that Susan sent to all people about their situation, and just that it's quite frustrating. And as I think most of you know, it seems that most of the vaccine is going to these major sites, and they are trying to make sure these sites that they're within reach of underserved communities as well as everyone. So that's kind of the goal of it. And I think it's a long letter and I just got it when I got here. So I was trying to read through it, but it appears I can read the whole thing to you if you want, or it seems that maybe the local towns will be trying to get people who can't get to a site, like people maybe who get Meals on Wheels or whatever, and trying to reach out to the more vulnerable people. But they have not scheduled and are not able to schedule another 100 vaccinations to be given as were given a couple weeks ago at the COA, because that was all they got then. And they don't mention having received since then.
Okay, I'm sure
Maybe
Ginger's going to address this.
Yeah, Ginger. Okay.
Patty, a follow-up question. Was there any comment about getting second doses for the people who had participated in the initial vaccination?
I can address that when we get to my report.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Patty? Okay. Where am I? Public Works. Rod, that's you again.
Yes, it is. So two items of many that I think are of our particular interest to our committee. The first had to do with snow removal. There was a really amazingly interesting presentation about how much goes into the snow removal efforts in town. The large storm where we had gotten 20 inches cost the town $120,000. And just for that day of snow removal and the removal in downtown Concord and West Concord. The one fact that I found that I had no idea, they plow 44 miles of sidewalks in town. So that was pretty amazing. The other item is there was quite a bit of discussion and presentation about trash. And I think the pertinent point is that it's going to be more expensive to collect pay the town rates this year. We're still below the commercial company, private company rates, but things are going to believe this went by rather quickly, so I'm not sure of my numbers, but I think it's going to overall going to increase by $40 for the year. That's the fee. They'll do it in $20 increments, but the barrel and the sticker fees will remain the same. That's what I've been told, and that may be of particular interest to our senior population or those who are on fixed income. So just bring that up.
Wow.
They talk about why it's going up.
There were associated costs. There was a graph, Kristen, about that it's still less than the cost of the commercial. And there was discussion there. This is the negotiating year with Waste Management to see what kind of rates they'll get for the future. And they talked about the differences between negotiating a 1-year contract versus a 10-year contract. So they're trying to see if they can get a longer contract with that has is more favorable financially for the town. But this is all in flux, and there were lots of discussions about the recycling efforts, lots of details, which probably are not pertinent to this committee, but a good amount of work is going in both trash and recycling right now on the part of the town. I think that the negotiation starts in the spring.
They said at the chair's breakfast yesterday that there's been a huge increase in cardboard because so many people are having things shipped to their home, and that's creating an additional expense for the town.
Yeah, there was some talk actually about thinking about moving cardboard recycling bins to the compost site. I mean, there is one there now, but moving it out of the Keyes Road area or wherever else there are areas in town. But I don't know, this seems, to me, this would be a perfect public service credit for high school kids to come up with a commercially or a town viable way of recycling some of these materials into building materials for town trails. I'd love to see the creativity of the kids do something that would allow us to either pave the material with biodegradable materials or more permanent materials with fences. But that's another topic for another day.
Maybe you could suggest it at the next meeting.
Yeah, they probably assigned me to head the committee. I don't think
You can pass it on to Boy Scouts. There are always Eagle Scouts looking for projects.
Yeah, no, that's a great suggestion. I will.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Let's see. PEG access, Carol.
Well, it was a very long meeting. Lots of things were discussed, not too much relevant to us, but one thing that I did ask, because the newsletter that comes out from the COA lists some of the programs on MSN that or the Minuteman Network that revolve around senior activities. However, if you don't write that down and put it on your calendar, the only way you can find out really what's happening on those 3 channels is to go online, go to their website, and look at the TV guide. You cannot, from your TV, turn it on and go to channel 88 and go to the guide and see what's there like you can for every other station. And I was asking why that was the case, and they said, because it can't be done. And that was the answer. No, it can't be done. There was a big discussion on the middle school, the new middle school that's going to happen. And they're wondering whether they should put another media center in the new middle school like they have at the high school. Since there are a lot of people on this side of Route 2, the other side of Route 2 from the high school that would like to maybe get involved with those media activities. And other than that, there was just one very interesting thing that happened at the end. There was a citizen from Concord who contacted the selectmen and the PEG committee and told them that she wants Fox News, Fox Business, and Minuteman News to be off the basic package. She doesn't want to pay for those. And obviously they said that's just like a lot of people want a la carte programming, but that's probably not going to happen. So anyway, that was of interest, I thought.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have questions? Okay, transportation. Ginger, that's you.
No recent meetings that I know of.
Okay. And me, chair report. Okay, so we had the chair's breakfast yesterday. Someone from FinCom was speaking, and they say we have a revenue problem. I think, Andrea, maybe you can talk about that later. Public Works asked anyone who lives near a fire hydrant to make sure that it's dug out when we have a snowstorm. Public Health has been requesting doses of vaccine. They've gotten no response. Already heard that. There's going to be a preview meeting for town meeting, February 27th. It will be online if anyone is interested in that. I think those are the key things that we haven't discussed already. Anybody have questions? Okay, Finance Committee, Andrea.
Yes. I'm not sure what's pertinent. We had the town's budget, preliminary budget. There's a big issue, of course, with reduced revenues since the meals tax, the hotel tax. But generally speaking, people are paying their property taxes. We're still in the stage where everything is very preliminary and waiting for, word from the governors to, if we're going to get any money. We've got a lot of meetings coming up, and everything at this point, well, most things at this point is guesswork and wishful thinking. So I don't, as far as what would be pertinent to the Council on Aging, we haven't really gotten into anything like that, and we've been having guidelines meetings as opposed to the regular meetings. So I haven't actually been able to bring up any of the concerns from the Council on Aging. And the StarMet project and what that would mean as far as the town goes, budgets, financial part of it. I think what's next week, what's next week? I guess next week we have a regular meeting. And, I'll find out more. They've been long meetings, but they're guidelines meetings and not the regular, we don't do the regular reports. So I haven't had a chance to give my report next week. You're
All right, thank you. Susan, Select Board.
Yes, well, you mentioned the top thing on my list, Carol Ann, which is that the pre-town meeting preview will be a week from Saturday, 9 o'clock. And it's a pretty informal meeting. All the committee chairs come together and, the school department and the town manager, and give an idea of warrant articles that they're definitely going to be proposing for town meeting, or perhaps will be proposing for town meeting. And it's not the article itself that has to be defined. It's just where they're at in that process. So some committees like planning will have a number of articles to propose, and other committees, maybe none. So that'll give us a flavor of what the warrant is going to look like in terms of number of articles. And if you know of anyone who's wanting to present a petition article, a citizen petition article, they're encouraged to come. And again, they don't have to have it all fleshed out, because we're not at that, nobody's at that point yet, or few are. But it would be good to know if people are interested in doing that. And so from this point on, this starts the town meeting process, where there'll be meetings and the warrant will open, and there'll be hearings on each of the articles. And then June, can't remember the exact date, in June, town meeting will occur. And everything is sort of geared to that, backed up, like the dates of the hearings. And it's all posted on the town website, what all of these dates are. So here we go.
And town meeting will be outside again this year.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone have questions? Oh, okay. Ginger, you're up.
Hello, everyone. So I think I'm going to focus on COVID vaccine because I think that's what's first and foremost on probably most of your minds. And I know it's on the minds of most of the senior citizens living in Concord. So there's quite a lot to talk about related to that. So I'm going to try to get through that, and then I'll just leave it at that unless anybody has any specific questions on other related COA business. So as you know from the last report, the hope had been that the local public health department would receive 100 vaccines per week, which was extremely low for the number of seniors that we have. But nevertheless, we were prepared to go forward with that if that's all we were going to get. And as you know, we did host one clinic on the 10th of February. We had opened registration for that the week before. We announced that we were going to do that. Everybody called starting at 10 a.m. that day. And I understand that many seniors had multiple family members dialing continually as well, trying to get through. And we crashed the town of Concord phone system that day. Trying to let everyone have a fair chance to get in. So 100 lucky seniors did get an appointment. We did spend the better part of a day, 6 of us registering all of them. We took the 100 names. We did not register one at a time. It's way too time consuming. We got the 100 names, then we divvied up the list, and then the six of us plus a helper from the health division helped us to call and register those 100 people. The clinic went extremely well, very efficient, and we made 100 people very happy. There is many other people that are very unhappy that they didn't happen to be one of the lucky 100s. We've been assisting them in any way we can to either try to help them find appointments online if they aren't internet savvy. As you know, eventually the administration opened up the 211 phone line as an opportunity for seniors to call in and get assistance getting registered. And so we've been directing people to that as well. Now, a lot of people are wondering, are the 100 lucky people going to get a second shot? At the present time, the Department of Public Health is saying that they will honor a local public health department's request for second vaccines for any people that they already vaccinated. That could change. Things change every day. But at the moment, they seem committed to eventually giving the town of Concord enough vaccine to do those second vaccines for those 100 people. A letter did come out this week that effective the week March 1st, no local public health departments will receive any more first dose vaccine at all. None. So we did not get any vaccine last week. We did not get any vaccine this week. Seems somewhat unlikely that we would get any next week. And then after that, there's going to be no more vaccine designated for local health departments. The only exceptions are 20 towns that the state has identified as being at higher risk for whatever reason. Those local health departments are still eligible to receive vaccine, but only those 20 higher risk communities, and Concord is not one of them. So as you know, the state has made a decision to direct the great majority of the vaccines to the mega sites. They are increasing the number of bigger sites. Worcester opened this week. Natick is supposed to open next week. I think Dartmouth is opening next week as well. I'm hearing that we've all been waiting for pharmacies to get it as well. I'm hearing that the doses to pharmacies are also going to be mainly going to those 20 communities that are at higher risk. So we'll see. As you know, in response to the struggles that many people over 75 were having, the state allowed a senior over 75 to bring a companion with them to assist them. And if they did so, the companion would be eligible to receive the vaccine. The senior did have to attest that they could not have gotten there otherwise. You know, couldn't, it was either a transportation issue, a hearing issue, dementia issue, some reason why this person had to come with them. I think there's probably been quite a lot of abuse of that, where maybe a senior could have gotten there by themselves, but chose to bring a child, a grandchild, whatever. But that was an honor system thing, is my understanding. Mm. So we have had a number of offers, by emails to me, phone calls in. Can you pair me up with a senior so that I can go down and get my own shot? The way that we are handling that with the advice of the town manager's office is that if somebody is willing and interested in being a permanent volunteer for the COA, we will take an application, we will process them, and we will run a criminal records background check on them. And only at that time would we consider, pairing them with a senior that's interested in a ride to a mega site. We are not going to be willing to or able to do a criminal background check on anybody who's calling up just to give a ride for this one reason, and they're not interested in being more of a long-term volunteer for us. Some of the people that I've written back to let them know if they are interested in working, with us on a more permanent basis, we'd be happy to take an application. Of course, I never hear back from them. That isn't their interest. It has been a worry for us, that there are many people out there that might be taking advantage, of being a companion to a senior. A lot of personal information, insurance information, et cetera, gets put into these online systems, and this stranger to them could have access to that. Even though the advice from the administration has been, don't take a ride from somebody you don't know. People are desperate. People want this vaccine, and they're taking chances they shouldn't be taking. As of today, which is, I think most of you are well aware, they opened the eligibility to those age 65 and older and those who had 2 or more comorbidities, and that made, and the housing, and people who lived in senior housing, and that made 1 million more people eligible. And as I mentioned when we first came on, that was as at 8 o'clock this morning, and by 8:07 every site was crashed. It's for those seniors, the oldest and the frailest that didn't already get a slot, they have a lot more competition now. I have reached out to Senator Barrett's office and Representative Tammy Gouvea's office. I've had long conversations with both those offices about my concerns about the way in which the decision was made to roll this out to the Commonwealth's oldest, frailest seniors, and that I felt like it should have gone to local communities first. And that local communities were prepared to do this. I explained to them, we've been planning for this for a year. I gave them the example that in Concord, we've leased this tent at great expense that is up in the high school parking lot, ready to go and mostly sitting empty because we can't get any vaccine to do what we were prepared to do. I basically have said that, I don't think it's too late for the administration to, make a change, stop diverting so much vaccine to the mega sites and choose to divert it to the local communities to handle the oldest and the frailest. But mostly they feel like it's probably too late, that there's no way that there's going to be a change. I'm quite worried about the homebound seniors. Supposedly the state is working on a plan on how they're going to vaccinate homebound seniors. I don't know this to be true, but I got the impression they might be waiting for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that is supposed to get approved more toward the end of this month, because that would only take 1 shot. And the infrastructure they would take to be going into, doing home visits twice, it certainly would be easier if they only had to do it once. But, that is not for sure. That was an impression I got, that might be what they were thinking. So I'm not sure yet how they're going to handle getting those that are homebound and cannot get to any site, even if we did have it local, how those folks are going to get vaccinated. And I did express those concerns when I called as well. I think that's most of what I have to say about where things stand related, to the vaccine. Happy to take questions. This is being driven by our local, public health division. It is not a COA thing. A lot of misinformation out there, maybe because we had the clinic here at the COA, that somehow the COA is making the decisions about, requesting vaccine or distribution of vaccine. We are not making those decisions. We are doing everything in our power to support the health division with staffing and, phone service and, the logistics, but those, I have no ability or authority to request vaccine and I'm not able to do that. But rumors get flying. I certainly had a call this week saying, my neighbor down the street got called by your shop and offered a shot, and nobody from our organization called anybody and offered them a shot. What he was referring to was there was a short time when Emerson Hospital had set up a clinic on Baker Ave to vaccinate those patients from Emerson doctors that were considered high risk. And they were receiving individual phone calls and being invited down to that clinic to receive a vaccine. And that is what happened with this individual at the Housing Authority. But somehow word got around that it was the COA that had invited people, somebody to go down to this clinic. So it's hard with the misinformation that gets swirling out there and the rumors that get swirling. And then you probably heard it was in the news that they are going to stop giving vaccine to hospitals as well. So even though, once again, Emerson Hospital was prepared to, start these clinics and had started on a limited basis, it doesn't seem as though they're going to get any more. There were also several doctors' offices, big practices that were prepared to start vaccinating. And I believe at this time they still don't have vaccines. So I don't think that they're able to do that right now. So I think I'll stop there and just take questions if you have questions.
Yeah. Is there any chance that our van could take people to either Gillette or Danvers or?
So we are going to, I talked with Kate Hodges about this yesterday. I can't take a van full because that violates the 6-foot recommendation of maintaining social distancing. So it's inefficient, but the most I can take is 2 people. So I believe what we're going to try to do is try to take 2 at a time, and we'll try to do that to either the Natick site or the Worcester site, which is not as far away. It is very challenging though, because you're taking 2 strangers and I have to try to get them appointments on the same day at the same time, and if you're going onto the website to register one person, by the time I get on the website again and try to register the second person to send on my van, I might not be able to get them an appointment on the same day as the same time as when I'm sending the van. So we want to, we can only take 2 people at a time. We see one person in the rear of the van and one person in the front, and there's a shower curtain in between, and everybody wears a mask. That's the only way I can do it safely at this point. It would be nice to take a bus full, but even if I wanted to, even if it was safe to do that, which it's not, I'm not going to be able to get that many appointments in a row to take a bus load down there. If there was some way to contact, the administration and say, I'm from such and such a COA. I'm willing to hire a bus, a 55 passenger bus, if you can give me 55 appointments. There's no way to do this. There's no logistical way that one can get, multiple appointments at one time.
Yeah. They haven't thought this through very well. That's for sure. The administering the shots is beautiful, but getting an appointment is awful. They really did not think through at all. But that's the way it is.
So this situation does change every day. Every day I come to, and it's burning through a lot of staff time, as you can imagine. Not just my division, but other divisions in the town. We're all spending a lot of time talking about, thinking through, planning. We get one piece of information and we pivot and we plan for that. And the minute we get to that point, the state changes the rules and we got to start over again and replan and rethink and re-brainstorm. So it's taking a lot of staff time, and we're not getting very far very fast.
Yeah.
Any other questions related to this?
Just a comment, Ginger, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine least what I heard today, is that although J&J is confident of meeting its production goals, it's probably going to be backloaded in the quarter when they ship, not front-loaded. So I'm not sure we'll get the kind of immediate relief of the one-shot vaccine to all of the states until further on in the spring. That's just something to keep in
I
mind.
heard that as well, that, even if they get emergency approval toward the end of this month, which is what's predicted, that, the rollout of the inventory is not going to be much help for a while. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way.
Yep.
So I just had a question, Ginger. I mean, it's along the lines of what Carol was saying. A friend of mine was vaccinated in another town, and she's going to start.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard trouble. Let me turn you up here. Okay, try again.
That a friend in another town has gotten vaccinated, and so she is starting to volunteer to take people to the vaccination sites. And I wondered, is that something that we would want to try to support?
Yes, we actually are doing that. We have 6 people that are willing to drive people to vaccination sites. And actually they announced at a call I was on Friday that COA van drivers, both paid and volunteer, are eligible for vaccine. And so I have been, I am prepared a letter. It has to be on my stationery that just certifies that so-and-so is a volunteer driver for the Concord COA and is therefore eligible for the vaccine. So, and one of our volunteer drivers did pick up a letter yesterday and has secured an appointment to Gillette on this weekend sometime and is going down to be vaccinated. So that is a perk, if you will. But once again, you have to be like already one of our drivers or be willing to like permanently be one of our drivers. You can't just do it one time to get the shot yourself. But yes, we are doing that. We are making that available if we can get them an appointment, but it's not easy right now. We don't have any special backdoor entrance. We have to do the same thing you all have to do. I don't have any way to get to anything any easier than the general public. The only other thing I wanted to add, if we're ready to go off of COVID, another question? No? You're muted, Patty.
There's terrible background. I don't know where it's coming from,
Yeah.
but if we all mute, maybe it will go away, I hope. Am I the only one hearing that?
No, I hear it too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The only other thing I wanted to report to you is just before I came on to this Zoom meeting, I finished my Zoom meeting with the Concord Carlisle Community Chest Allocations Committee that's basically reviewing the COA's grant application to them for this year. It went very well. I love that process. It doesn't make me feel uncomfortable and nervous at all. It gives me a nice opportunity to describe what we do to usually 4 or 5 new people that aren't that familiar with our work. And so I find it to be a, very pleasant experience. So it went very well. So we've completed that task for this year, And that's basically, I think all I have. I think that's it for me.
Sorry, Ginger, that's explaining what happened with last year's money or requesting for this upcoming year?
That would be the request that would start next July 1.
How are things going with the Friends? You have an event coming up, right? With the daffodils? A drive-through?
We do. Our first event together, or event sponsored by them in many years, coming up at the end of the month with the daffodil plant giveaway.
Okay. That's a happy.
Yes, yes. Yeah, feeling optimistic. So that's nice after many years.
Good. Okay. Are there any other questions?
I just have one
Yeah.
from Ginger, for Ginger. Are you going to plan another drive-through for giving out masks, 5 at a time, packages of 5, like you had?
Yes, we're going to keep doing that. For those of you who maybe don't know, I can't remember if this came up last month, but the Rotary was able to, they donated 1,000 masks to us, which we've already given away, and now they've been able to secure another 1,000 masks, and so we'll just keep doing it until we're out. I think now that there's been some suggestion in the media that wearing 2 masks instead of 1 has helpful to, and I noticed when we did the vaccination clinic, I was the person outside checking them in, and there was a lot of people coming with 2 masks. And so I think there's renewed interest in getting more masks because now people are using 2 of them. Many people are using 2 of them. So yes, we'll keep doing that. We're working on the March newsletter right now. I don't know the date, but I'm sure we'll have one.
Are you doing that by appointment again?
No, not by appointment. You just have to sign up. So, we'll have a day, where say between 11 and 11:30, you can drive by, but you have to sign up in advance. So we know how many packages of masks we're going to need, but you can come anytime and drive through during that particular half hour to pick them up.
Okay.
Those are 2 like surgical masks, right? I mean, people don't wear 2 surgical masks, do they?
I have seen people wearing 2 surgical
That's not what was
masks.
recommended. Just to
And
clarify for them that that's not what was clarified.
there, I know that that some people are doing 1 cloth, 1 disposable. But I have seen people wearing 2 disposables.
Because there are no real guidelines, what's the best? Kristen, you were going thumbs up with,
Yeah, well, I mean, the CDC has said it's good to do a surgical and a cloth, but there's no evidence to do 2 surgical. So I wouldn't encourage 2 surgical.
also the KN95 masks that are fairly available. Would you put a surgical mask over that, or a cloth mask over that, or nothing over that?
Yeah, a cloth mask over that.
So cloth mask would be on the top layer. I see. How do you know that?
CDC guideline. I mean, I have
Oh,
public health. I did COVID stuff at the beginning of the epidemic.
Oh.
So
thank you.
Okay. Carol, you had sent an article to me. Is that something you would like to share with the group? Oh, you're on mute.
The Boston Globe is partnering with MIT Aging Lab, and they're going to come out with articles that have to do with senior citizens, and especially Massachusetts, and saying that we are a wonderful, what's the word I want to use, resource, rather than being a detriment to society. We are the new resource. It's they're saying we have the wisdom, the knowledge, volunteer ability, the money that a lot of younger people do not have. So it'll be interesting to see what else happens. But
Maybe that's a Zoom bomb.
I think I might be wrong.
I don't have a cuckoo clock. Sorry.
oh, that was my cuckoo clock. Yeah, my cuckoo clock has been clocked. Yeah. But that's not what we've been hearing.
No.
All along. It's that other noise. No, I can't,
I
I
think-
could have stopped it, I guess, yeah.
It stopped. It
Yeah,
stopped.
well, it's 5 o'clock, so it's done.
But I was just going to thank Ginger for that detailed information about COVID. That's really helpful to know. And I wanted to thank Rod too for your great reporting on the Concord Housing Authority. You seem to be squeezing more out of that than I was able to. So I appreciate that. I think your new eyes were a good thing.
Very good. Okay, thank you, everyone. Any other questions, comments? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion that we adjourn?
Was that your motion?
Second.
Is that your motion?
Second.
Yes.
All right, Christina, we're voting to adjourn. Yes, okay. Patty,
Yes.
Kristen, Rod,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
that's it. Okay, meeting adjourned.
Okay,
you.
Okay, thanks.
see you next
Thank you,
time.
everyone.
Thank you.
Be careful.
Bye.
Thank you.
Be careful going home, Ginger.